season, it sort of helps us on a production level, because then we can like write all the scripts, get everything together, and then sort of really have our ducks in a row and be able to stretch the dollar a little bit better.
Can you talk a little bit about what's the deal with this new trend and everything being post-apocalyptic? Why is the future so depressing?
Well, I think that's a very valid question. I would say, though, in this show in particular, that the future is very hopeful. I think that, the idea of, honestly, the idea which originally was based on a book.
It's hopeful after 97 years. For a while, it's not. It's pretty bleak and tough. But then, yeah, Matt's right, ultimately. There's hope.
You know what it is? But what's so interesting, I think, is that, it enables you. I think that one of the reasons that post-apocalyptic stuff is so prevalent right now is it's sort of like a reset button on life and society, and it allows you to just sort of start over. And in a way, but people have evolved, and technology has evolved, but you still get a sort of reshuffling of the deck in terms of relationships and society, and how would you do things differently. I think everyone in today's world thinks everyone's doing things wrong, be it politically or socioeconomically or in other ways, and so this is like, okay, how would you do it if you had the opportunity?
And that's going to be something that we do all the time on the show. It's really about what kind of world that these kids, for the most part on the ground, on the same themes apply obviously on the Ark in space, but what kind of world do they want to create? Crime and punishment. When somebody kills somebody, how do they deal with that? When they capture, I don't want to give too much of the story away, but we'll be dealing with torture. Is that acceptable or not in certain circumstances?
And for those that don't know, can you tell us what the 100 is all about?
Okay, I'm going to work on doing this more succinctly. Okay, I sometimes meander a bit. It is 97 years after a nuclear war has wiped out the planet, and at the time of the bombs, there were 12 space stations in space, much more accessible, obviously, in this near future of ours than it is today. Those 300 people that were on those stations are the only survivors, and over 100 years, they've put the stations together, created one society that's called the Ark. And the Ark is dying, and because the Ark is dying, they have no choice but to send a mission to the ground again to see if it's survivable. They don't think it will be. It's 100 years till their scientists say it will be, and they send 100 juvenile delinquents. The reason they send that, there's been some question about that, is that there are only juvenile prisoners. There are no adult prisoners. You are executed if you are over 18 years old, and so they send these juvenile delinquents to the ground because they're expendable, to see if it's survivable. They are the 100 canaries in the coal mine, essentially. And they find that their scientists were wrong, and the world is not the world that they expected to find. That's the show.
With a lot of hidden dangers embedded in it.
Yeah, things have changed. It's been simmering in radiation. It's very important to us to ground it in real science as much as possible. Obviously, it's science fiction, and so we've taken some liberties. There'll be some crazy reveals. Some of it is beautiful as a result of the radiation. Most of it is not. Most of it is scary and dark and hideous. But we're going to play with the yin and the yang a lot.
What's the prolific nature of the post-apocalyptic storylines, like she mentioned? What do you guys feel that you're bringing that's new or fresh to it?
I mean, I think. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, I was going to say that, the conceit itself is science fiction, but really it's a character piece. And it's about how do these kids, 100 juvenile delinquents, rebuild society. And whether that's a new idea or an old idea, it's about the execution and the telling that. And I think also the juxtaposition of these kids on the ground trying to find their own society. You also have the characters up on the space station on how they've been able to form their society, survivors on the ground, things of that nature.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's the most important thing about this show that I haven't seen before. It's the juxtaposition between the Ark, which, template for that, you might think of something like Battlestar Galactica. It's the political situation up there is dark. They're going to have to kill people in order to make more oxygen for the rest of them, and that's happening this year. And on the ground, it's like Lost. So, these are two of my favorite shows, and I put them together. It's like a chocolate peanut butter situation.
Yeah.
Can we get your names and your...
Oh, sorry.
What you do?
Yeah, I'm Jason Rothenberg. I wrote the pilot, creator of the show. and executive producer.
I'm Matt Miller, and I work as an executive producer on the pilot.
What you talked about, I'm sorry. Thank you. What's the balance between the Ark and the Earth?
Yeah.
That's a great question.
Perfect. Two birdies get together before.
You know what? First of all, from the first day, I was thinking about this. This is based on a book that Alloy is publishing called The 100, which comes out in the fall. And I saw the idea brilliantly I feel kind of comfortable saying what an amazing idea it is because it wasn't mine, frankly. And so, to me, the percentage of time that we spend on the Ark versus the ground is going to be similar for the whole show as it is in the pilot. Technically, it's about 30%, right? There's 3 storylines that we're tracking. 1 is on the Ark, 2 are on the ground. So that should hold for the most part.
When you're doing a science fiction story, how do you decide how much real science you're going to use versus you're just going to make crackpot that's going on?
It's a great question. For me, the kind of science fiction that I like, that I gravitate towards, that I write, it's always about reining it in. I don't want it to be, there's no magic, there's no like rays coming out of people's eyes and things like that. It's all got to be, you have to be able to explain it scientifically. It could all be bullshit, excuse my language, but there needs to be a kernel of real science. So anything you ask that you've seen the pilot, I assume, all of that stuff could be explained pseudo-scientifically. And that's important for us going forward.
The buy of the show is that there was this apocalypse and that people were able to survive on these space stations. But beyond that, once you ask for that buy, everything else should feel as grounded as possible.
Right.
We were touching on it, and one of my favorite things about the pilot was the dynamic between the 2 different stories. Is there going to be a way to combine those 2 stories? How much will one affect the other? I guess that's what I'm trying to get at. Because they are...
Yeah. I mean, listen, we're aware that the potential to have those 2 worlds, what we sort of refer to as siloed, is there. But emotionally, they're connected. It's parents who are worried about their kids on the ground. It's kids on the ground realizing, oh my God, it's survival down here, but they don't know that up there, and we have to get word up to them, otherwise they're going to die, because Clark, the lead, knows the Ark is dying. So that, I think, in and of itself really connects the worlds, but of course we're going to, there are characters that will come from one to the other in the series. There are possibilities of bringing the whole thing, we just don't know where it's going, but obviously there'll be connective tissue.
I mean, the danger, I think, is as you watch the pilot, is feeling like they're 2 separate worlds. And that can also be a virtue. I think that the idea is to, you're automatically going to be intrigued by what's going on the ground, and the kids and their stories and the romantic stories. And it's how do you keep the Ark engaging? So when you cut back to it, it feels like you're still interested in that story. And I think a couple of ways that we're doing that is, what are the idea that it's touched upon a little bit in the pilot, which is that the Ark itself is dying. But when you put those stakes on the Ark, are they going to have to actually float or kill a certain amount of people to keep them alive?
Because the fewer people that are up there, the longer the resources will last forever.
At what point will the people on the Ark learn that Earth is in fact survivable? And then how will they try and get down to the Earth? And then the other challenge that we had is, in going forward in the series, is, there's not a lot of scenes between the kids on the ground and their parents or other characters in the Ark. So we're employing some flashback techniques in the series, so at least you can see, like, Clark with her mother, because otherwise you see them for 30 seconds at the beginning of the pilot and then they're never together again. So using all of that stuff will hopefully make it feel like 2 separate worlds, but not like 2 separate shows.
Will we get a chance to meet Clark's father that way?
We will.
Exactly. You do very well in the writers' room.
Thank you guys. Sorry.
Thank you.